I want to sincerely thank everyone for joining us here this morning. I'm Susan Higginbotham, CEO of the Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence. Each year, we gather here at the Capitol during October, which is recognized nationally as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, to honor the lives lost to domestic violence in Pennsylvania in the last year and to continue to advocate for prevention and change on their behalf. I want to take a minute to welcome and thank our advocates, special guests, and legislators. From the Department of Human Services, we have Secretary Teresa Miller and Cassie Auerland. From the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency, Kathy Buckley. The Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape, Karen Baker and Donna Greco. The Department of Banking and Securities, Julia Brinjak, Shannon Walker, DeLucy Antonucci, Meredith Knoll, George Henson, and from the Pennsylvania Legal Aid Network, Sam Milkis. We have a volunteer, Alicia Pulowski, and there are 16 of PCADV's local domestic violence programs here, as well as Representatives Cheryl Delosier, Torin Ecker, Joe Hohenstein, Mary Isaacson, Sarah Imarato, Don Kiefer, Kate Klunk, Anita Kulik, Natalie Milanek, Eric Nelson, Ben Sanchez, Wendy Thomas, and Senators Michelle Brooks, Tom Killian, Jay Costa, and Katie Muth. I apologize if I inadvertently omitted anyone who joined us but was not on our confirmed list. First, I want to say effectively addressing the epidemic of domestic violence indeed requires a coordinated community response. Everyone here today is united with us in our commitment to prevent and end domestic violence. PCADV and its 59 domestic violence programs work every day to improve the lives of victims and survivors of domestic violence in Pennsylvania. Our commitment is to ensure that as many people as possible, especially those from typically underrepresented groups, have access to information and services that help them access safety and rebuild autonomous lives. Further, programs like the Lethality Assessment Program, or LAP, are designed to connect victims at the most significant risk of lethality with the domestic violence program in their area. This is done through a screening tool used by police officers responding to domestic violence calls. The program is currently available in 49 Pennsylvania counties with 47 domestic violence programs and 360 law enforcement agencies participating in the program. In addition, while it may not be widely known, financial abuse occurs in approximately 99% of domestic violence situations. Abusers control resources so severely that it makes it nearly impossible for victims to leave abusive situations. Our Economic Justice Initiative focuses on providing advocates with tools and resources to help survivors access education, develop budgeting skills, repair credit, build savings, find affordable housing, and gain meaningful employment. The program is in place at 17 sites across the Commonwealth, and it has helped more than 20,000 survivors. These are just two examples of a broad range of programs and services that we and our local domestic violence programs provide across the state. Our programs are designed to raise awareness and to connect survivors to services to help them find safety and justice and lead autonomous lives, and to ultimately create healthy and safe communities free of violence. These programs are vital so that domestic violence deaths drastically slow rather than grow in number. In the past decade in Pennsylvania, more than 1,600 women, men, and children have lost their lives to domestic violence, and that's why we're here today. In 2018 alone, domestic violence homicides occurred in 38 of Pennsylvania's 67 counties. Today, we acknowledge and commemorate 123 victims who lost their lives to domestic violence last year. Of those, 85 were female and 37 were male. 4 of the victims were under the age of 18. 68% of victims were killed by a current or former intimate partner, and 57% of victims were killed with a firearm. These grim statistics indicate that we still have much more work to do. I want to invite our attending legislators and guests to come to the podium to commemorate the 123 victims by reading their names aloud so that their memories may be immortalized in our mission to eliminate domestic violence for future generations. Oh, they didn't? Okay, sure.
Alexis Key, Valerie Arangio, Cindy Lou Ashton, Brian Braymeyer, William Denman,
Brenda Solinsky, Sarah Lee, Siani Overby, Mark Quadrell.
Devana Coricher, Robert Goulet, Henry Fox, Keith Jackson, Vera Williams Butler, Miranda Grimm Galarski, Christina Festemacher, Carolina Montansanto, Janice Munich.
Miranda Matasowski, Alicia Stahlheim, Frank Novak, and John Small.
Dolores Miller, Andrew Steritz, Ashley Campfield, Latricia Ezel, Eric Eberhart, Adeline Hill, Amber Therese Jackson, Isis Williams, and Oscarina Zarzuela.
Kristen Eberhart, John Schmuck, Diane Rosie, Joseph Amrine, Richard Hicks.
Courtney Sue Snyder, Sharon Burke, Donna Marie Donato, Thomas Lane, Kelly Bryan, Michelle Kreck, Carrie Martini, Dale Thomas, Jeremy Cadwallader.
Linda Frick, Joseph Lewis, Sandra Martin, Sandra Lee Montanari, Antoinette Wilkinson, Nancy Rogel, William Rogel, Stephanie Burnett Williams, and Tammy Fox.
Kevin Thompson, Dolores Williams, Tammy Greenewalt, Tanisha Harkless, Haley Lorenzen, Heather Woodward, Rachel Yeager, Sister Angela Miller, Rosemary Smith.
Tammy Dorward, Gada Salib, Angela Maya Stith, Ebony White, Lakivia Bush, David Glenn Focht Sr., Patricia Haverly, Terry Minier, Edna Pinder.
Caden Mancuso, Etliva Meta, Linda Rios Newby, Drita Strelka, Vianella Tavera, Anna Angok, Autumn Bartle, Chung Suk Shong, Janice Wildnauer.
Colleen Patterson, Teresa Priestley, Jonathan J. Schmoyer, Wam Tesfamirian, Lonnie Hudson, Tiffany Korbelic, Suzanne Lenkowitz, Rancio Natera, Maureen Talker.
James Stevens, Ryan Minute, Danielle Pezzerani, Richard Bennett, Carrie-Ann Jolie Beach, Alita Bird, Meredith Chapman, Chadise Coleman, Luke Beatty, Sonia Heck.
Sue Lyons Grunden, Brianna Burkhart, Richard Fells, Isadora Fortune, Carl Vaverchek, Michelle Brown, Keno Butler, Dorothy Gilkey, Amanda Grazioli, and Sierra Nicole Madison.
Liliana Alvarez, Gwendolyn Anderson, Tammy Blount, Shanae Brown, Renee Kassam, Louise Lewis, Selena Wall, Chelsea Lou Klein, and Seth William Klein.
John Mackey, Trey Montel McCargo, William Scott Porterfield, and Elijah Schuler.
Thank you all for helping to commemorate the lives of those lost in 2018 in Pennsylvania due to intimate partner violence. At this time, I'm delighted to introduce Senator Tom Killian. He's a real champion on the legislative side to do something about domestic violence. Senator Killian.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this ceremony this morning. This afternoon on the Senate floor, I'll be offering Senate resolution designating the month of October 2019 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month in Pennsylvania. To date, 40 senators have signed as co-sponsors. As a former board member of the Domestic Abuse Project of Delaware County, I learned firsthand the successful efforts they've made providing safety, advocacy, and support services to victims within all 49 municipalities. Last session, the General Assembly passed landmark legislation that would further protect victims of domestic violence and their families. And if it wasn't for the advocates behind us, it never would have happened. My bill, Senate Bill 501, became part of Act 79 of 2018 and made major reforms to our protection from abuse laws by taking firearms away from those convicted abusers. This law took effect after the Governor's Wolf's signature on April 10, 2019. The advocates and volunteers, all of whom here this morning, had worked tirelessly for 12 years to make this their number one priority become law. I will continue to work toward our shared goal, further protecting victims from domestic abuse and sending our message loud and clear. We hear the voices of the victims, and we're going to use every means within our authority to protect them. Thank you again for inviting me to be part of this important ceremony.
Thank you, Senator Killian. And now I'm very pleased to introduce Representative Cheryl DeLozier. She has also been a true champion, and I welcome her to the microphone.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. I was proud to introduce the resolution in the House of this year, once again designating October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. It is important to help victims come forward and raise the public awareness, which is why we do it every single year. At some point, our goal is not to have to raise awareness because we don't have the issue, but unfortunately that is not today. More than 10 million people are abused each year in the United States, And in Pennsylvania, as you heard, the victims, over 120 victims this year alone. They died because of domestic violence just this year. The victims are all ages and races, and they're all education levels. No one group is immune to potentially being a victim of domestic violence. The Pennsylvania Coalition Against Domestic Violence tells us that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men have experienced physical violence by an intimate partner. The coalition serves thousands of victims and gives hope. For that, I am very grateful that there are services for those that need it. The best way that we can bring about an end to domestic violence is through prevention and education. We need to find a way to stop these incidences before they occur. Many abusers learn their behavior from their parents, from their friends, or from others that they know. It is in each of us, it's beholden on all of us to show relationships that are strong and loving and supportive. That provides a better foundation for our future generations. Another way that we can play a role in violence prevention is by watching for the common signs of abuse in each of our relationships or those that we know. We see them all around us, but we many times don't say anything and don't ask the questions that need to be asked. Those signs may include demeaning comments, threats, or isolating someone from family and friends. Pennsylvania's lethality assessment program was established in 2012 and connect family members to services that they may need for those that they love. Resources that they need to escape a potentially lethal situation. Our police and domestic violence programs are used in this assessment to identify victims of high danger and life-threatening possibilities. We need those who are experiencing domestic violence to know that they are not alone. There are services, there are advocates, and there are people out there to help you. You need to take that first step, but there are many that will be there to support you when you do. We need to be able to dream of the day that we don't need to talk about domestic violence because people know exactly what it is and what to do about it. I thank you for the opportunity. I'm proud to introduce the resolution, which I'll leave here, but the ability to have conversations and talk about it and educate, the more people will be aware, the more people will know there's services available, and the more people that can seek help. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Delosier. And before I introduce our keynote speaker for today, I want to thank the advocates and the survivors who are all standing here with us, especially for the work that they do every day and for their help in raising awareness. Giselle Barreto Fetterman is an access and equity advocate, a hugger, and the Second Lady of Pennsylvania. She's the founder of Free Store 15104, where surplus and donated goods are received and redistributed to neighbors in need. The Free Store aims to eradicate food and clothing insecurity and has inspired 9 spin-off locations and the birth of 412 Food Rescue. Giselle is the co-founder of 412 Food Rescue, a community-wide effort to end hunger and reduce food waste. 412 Food Rescue has rescued over 5 million pounds of food. She is the co-founder of For Good PGH, a nonprofit that works to advocate for inclusion and inspire kindness. Its first initiative, Hello Hijab, has received both national and international praise. Giselle was born in Brazil and immigrated as a child to the U.S., living as an undocumented immigrant for over a decade. Her work has been featured in The Today Show, CNN, NPR, and more. Giselle is a 40 Under 40 honoree, a TEDx speaker, a Jefferson Awards recipient, and a mother of three. Please welcome Giselle Fetterman.
Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here today. You could be anywhere, but you are here. So thank you. I'm so honored to stand here with all of you today. So many who have been such fighters in this for many years, fierce advocates, survivors, men and women who have come forward and share their stories so that one less person would experience this. Ending domestic violence will take all of us. And it will look like a lot of things. It will look like ESL classes and financial literacy. It will look like emotional support. It will look like GED. It will look like education. It will look like access to affordable housing. These are all things that remain traps that are not allowing folks to get out of these situations. My life's work has been dedicated to creating opportunities for the most vulnerable. And in being in those spaces, I saw firsthand men and women who were unable to flee situations because of lack of support, lack of housing, lack of opportunity. And we know that this is the primary way that we can support families and prevent this, is to create independence and to create more access and equity. We know that we lost 123 lives, 123 lives that are not that were never able to live to their full fulfillment. And now, how has that impacted their family, their children, their parents? We know that 1 in 4 women experience this. We know that 1 in 7 men experience this. I've had, as a former First Lady, I received many domestic calls, but a very personal one was about 8 years ago. I received a call from a young woman, a young mother, an immigrant, and she called me only because we shared the same origin country. She reached out, her husband was at work, and this was my first experience thrown into this with her one-on-one. I arrived to a very scared, very bruised young woman and her 2 children. And I quickly, as I ushered her through this world, I landed in the lap of advocates like you who were so welcoming and so supportive and were really able to become the bridge that allowed her to come through on the other side, which she did. And you have an incredible community at work here supporting these families, making their way out, and I'm so grateful for that. She is doing well. She made it out, thankfully, and she tells her story. She's been able to help a lot of other men and women make it out, but we know the story doesn't always end that way. And we have to be a part of making sure that the stories have better endings, but truly that the story doesn't start at all. We want to make sure that we're supporting families, and that we're not getting to this point. How can you help? You can volunteer. You can find your local domestic shelter. You can reach out to them and find out what their needs are, how you can get involved. You can become an advocate if you aren't already one. Your voice is really important. Contacting your local elected officials, using your legislative power and voice to make sure we're doing all the things correct on the policy side to avoid as much of that as possible. And mostly, thank you for being here. We have to become better listeners. We have to be able to realize something is happening. We have to be more aware of the conversations we're having. This is happening to our coworkers. These are our friends, and they're not always going to be ready to share that. And we have to be aware that we can have a part in stopping that. So mostly, I'm just grateful for all of you who are here, for those who have experienced this and lend their voice to this and are fighting so that one less person gets to experience that. So thank you for being here today.
Well, once again, I want to thank everyone for coming today, all of our legislators, Secretary Miller, and everyone who supports prevention and education around domestic violence. Thank you all very much.